Hello, 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 and thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Soraya Marshall-Wright with the Autonomy Group. At the Autonomy Group, we are a law firm specializing in elder law and special needs planning. And this month is Senior Independence Month. As previously mentioned, throughout the month, we are going to be bringing you helpful tips focused on living your best life and, of course, being able to live an independent life. I'm excited today to have a special guest with me, and I'm actually really interested in some of the information that she has to share. Our special guest today is Dr. Robyn Scott. Dr. Scott is a board certified clinical pharmacist and is dedicated to helping individuals live the good life, make good choices so that they can actually sleep well. So, Dr. Scott, I'm so excited that you've taken time to join me today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Attorney Soraya. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Dr. Scott, I will let you take the lead from here. If you would, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do specifically at Sleepwell RX.
Sure. Well, as you already said, my name is Dr. Robyn Scott. I've been a clinical pharmacist now for about 20 years, and I specialize in sleep, stress, and recovery here at Sleepwell RX. And so what I mostly do is I focus, large of my clients are mostly women, and we do have a few men, but women tend to need more sleep actually than men, which is very interesting. But I do focus on these women who have chronic insomnia, extreme stress, and a lot of exhaustion. And we work hand in hand, and I help them to address the stress, really increase their sleep to get really great, amazing, deep sleep where they're feeling rejuvenated when they wake up. And so that they can actually wake up full of energy and focus to take on their world. So that's really important.
That's awesome. And honestly, I happen to be a woman and I happen to have a lot of stress. So when Yvette told me about you and what you do, I was so excited to hear more. Now, we do primarily work with seniors, but I think the tips that you have to share today are applicable to just about anyone. Is that right?
Right. That's very true. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So, what exactly do you typically recommend for relieving stress using one's daily routine? Walk me through that a little bit.
Definitely. So, and just keeping seniors in mind, I know that's like a lot of your population. And especially in the past 3 years, our lives have totally changed and we've become less sociable as a society. So I definitely encourage daily activity with seniors and everyone to maintain a social life. And if that's, keeping in touch with family, friends, definitely talking on the phone with them, having visits, also getting out and about. Getting that morning daily sunshine actually sets your circadian rhythm for the whole day. And that's just a fancy word for God really built in us a way that we sleep in a particular rhythm and in reflection to the light and the darkness. So those seniors who can get out and get some sunshine, and it doesn't have to be anything major, just going for a brisk walk. It can be a slow walk to their mailbox, but going out and getting that. Also building into the day some type of movement. And that's going to differ from person to person. They should definitely check definitely with their healthcare practitioner to see how much movement they can tolerate based on their different conditions. So getting out and about, moving, stretching, not staying solitary and still. Doing breath work. A lot of us don't get a lot of oxygen in. So taking those deep breaths to really enjoy life and to get that oxygen, and the deep breaths really help us to decrease our stress. Seniors are especially at a great time in life where, they have a lot more leisure time. So they have time to really, renew old hobbies, get new hobbies that they really like, and to volunteer. And having these other purposes in life, they just make us happy. They decrease stress. After all this activity, you have a great night's sleep as well. So just really slowly building things into their daily life and their routine so that they can get the rest that they need.
That's awesome. So I've heard you mention a lot about routine. I've heard you use the word
Yes.
routine quite a bit. So for those individuals who let's say seniors, for example, who do have a lot of free time, who may not necessarily have a structured schedule. They may wake up at different hours or go to sleep at different hours or just have different activities going on. How would you recommend that they establish some type of routine, even if they don't necessarily have to? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense because they don't have to report to a boss or have to be anywhere. And that totally makes total sense. So one of the things is things that get scheduled get done. So they can start by, I have a senior citizen aunt who she just keeps a notebook where she schedules different things she wants to do. So actually scheduling them, writing them down is something magical about putting it in print that she's going to go to her quilting club tomorrow and make sure that she definitely does that and doesn't slack off and just get into, a world where she's just being a loner. So that's really important. If they're going to bed, that's something they call sleep hygiene. So they should not be going to bed at, a lot of various times, like 9 p.m. one night, 12 a.m. the other night. That is really bad for getting that consistent sleep that we all need, seniors and everybody in between. So one of the things they can slowly kind of edge back. You can't really jump back 4 hours effectively. So for example, if they go to bed at midnight, they should start maybe going to bed at 11:40 one night for a few nights and then moving that to 11:20 and just slowly moving it back like 20 minutes till they get to their ideal time. And just making it, I think, we aren't taught, anything about sleep hygiene. When you think of how life was over 100 years ago, when the sun was up, you got up and worked, and then when it went down, it was time to go to bed. And you had maybe candle lights. So we're almost in a phase where we're kind of returning to learning just really primal sleep habits, primal health habits all together. So that could be something that can help them to kind of get their routine back in order.
I can honestly say that I'm one of those people who do not go to sleep at the same time every day.
Okay.
At the same time, but not necessarily going to sleep at the same time, which I know is bad. But from what I heard you say, it sounds like it varies. Like our need for sleep, it's going to vary from person to person. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned going back 20 minutes at a time. Can you just give us a high level overview of what sleep hygiene actually means and how would one determine if they need more or less? Would it be based on their performance the next day, or what are your thoughts?
Most of the people who are running into, and the people I deal with who are running into chronic insomnia, they have symptoms where they can tell me, one of them, I can get to sleep, but I wake back up very early. I can wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and not go back to sleep the entire night. It's actually normal to have some slight waking up, but not where you just don't go to sleep the entire night. So just looking at some of the various symptoms, being in touch with your body and knowing the symptoms. If you're a person that wakes up first thing in the morning and still feels exhausted, there's something that needs to be addressed with that. One of the first things, and I offer a free sleep analysis where I go over just a quick Q&A with potential clients. And we do talk about, has anyone noticed that you're snoring a lot? People like that can actually sleep great for the whole night. So they think, but because they're oxygen deprived, a lot of times the sleep snoring can be a sign of sleep apnea. And they can have, serious oxygen deficiency. So they need to see a healthcare practitioner to get that tested out. So it's usually based on symptoms, whether or not, if you're waking up feeling great and you don't really feel tired again till, after dinner, you're probably getting enough good sleep. But if you're feeling sluggish, that afternoon slump, you're waking up exhausted, waking up felt like you've run a marathon. Some people have restless leg syndrome where they've been working out all night, which is not a good thing. You're supposed to be at a decreased muscle tone, entering that REM sleep where you're really in a peaceful, calm state. So that's another thing they need to get checked out. So basically we base it on symptoms. And like you said, men actually require a little bit less sleep, which is awesome. They require like 6 to 8 hours. Women are usually anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And then normally as you get older, you may require a little more, which is normal for those as well.
Why do you think that is, that they require a little bit more as they get older?
Living a life, we just have decreased organ function in general as we get older. So it may be more regenerative time needed. They found that, we have decreased liver function, kidney function, and it doesn't have to be an absolute for everybody. I follow an 84-year-old woman who has amazing kidneys of a 30-year-old. So, but she's taken the time and the diet and the exercise to live that life on purpose. So it's not a 100% thing, but most people who have not taken that time will have decreased overall organ function and decreased, health issues as they get older. And sleep is one of those too.
Okay. So it may not necessarily have to do with age, but just the overall health of the individual.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned diet, so I'm sure food and nutrition definitely has a lot to do with this. So tell me a little bit about your perspective on how food and nutrition kind of plays into this whole picture.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I always look at when we're doing our sleep analysis, I like people to kind of describe some of the foods they eat throughout the day. And a lot of the people who will come to me with sleep issues do consume a good amount of caffeine. So that's one thing. And it's in everything. I see your hair go. And I used to be a coffee drinker too. I used to have kind of a really busy job in a hospital pharmacy. And my last time of drinking coffee, I can remember it was a few years ago, and my heart, it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. And it was just pounding and pounding. I was like, oh, I'll just switch to decaf. And then I read how they decaffeinated the coffee with all these chemicals. And I was like, well, that's no better. So I slowly began weaning myself from that. So I'm looking at coffee. Most of us don't like coffee just by itself. So we're putting a good amount of sugars in the coffee. And that's really the high sugar diet, high carb diet definitely can have a major negative effect on our entire health, whether it's diabetes, going into heart issues, and also the sleep. So that's another area. Some people think an evening nightcap is a good idea with the alcohol. And the alcohol can help them get to sleep initially, but it's a disruptive sleep often. So just trying to minimize a lot of the bad substances that people put into their mouth, focusing on whole food diets. And we don't necessarily prescribe to, people have to stop meats or anything. Some of the things that cause insomnia are like heavily fried foods, deep fried foods, ultra processed foods, foods that have been cured, like certain cheeses and meats and so forth. Obvious, like if you eat hot peppers or something like that before bed, that can also cause it. So I do encourage a lot of people, and I did a series actually on there's foods that actually have natural amounts of melatonin in them. And this is a natural hormone that we all produce naturally that helps us to get to sleep. So some of the foods are like tart cherries, regular cherries, kiwi, banana. Some of the nuts have them like pistachios, almonds. One of my favorites is mangoes. I love mangoes and pineapple. So we work with clients to actually, individualize a system for them where we, encourage them to make some fun smoothies in the evening for these so that they can get natural melatonin in and help them have a great night. So diet does play a big part. You can't eat, McDonald's 3 times a day and expect great sleep or great health in general. So you have to definitely, focus on the diet. Yeah.
Okay. So the coffee thing is definitely a challenge for me because I am a black coffee drinker. So I think I'm doing okay because I'm not consuming all the sugar. And I also drink hot tea in the morning, but it has a ton of caffeine. Usually I'm probably starting out my morning with about 2 cups of tea and then caffeinated sparkling water throughout the day and then more coffee. Yeah. So I know that that's bad.
That's the first step. That's like you're 80% there. The fact that you know, because I had a lot of people coming into my inbox, bashing me like, I like my coffee and leave me alone and so forth. So I think the fact that you understand that this is something you need to work on, you're 80% there of, slowly decreasing an amount. And you don't have to eliminate it 100%, just decreasing it enough so you don't have issues down the line with, hypertension, heart issues, all the issues that the caffeine, definitely has. So, You're there almost.
Almost. I used to be a major energy drink junkie. I did cut that out.
Yeah, those
So
are bad.
that's a plus. But I think based on what you're sharing now, I definitely need to work on cutting back. How do you
Definitely.
suggest someone even start? For someone like me who consumes a unhealthy amount of caffeine on a daily basis, how do you suggest they kind of start weaning off of it? Because of course, caffeine is a drug, and
It is.
stopping abruptly can harm or cause some terrible side effects.
Hmm. One of the ways you can start is by doing like a 50-50 caffeinated coffee versus decaf when you're making your coffees, and slowly start increasing the decaf over time. Now, like I mentioned, a lot of the decafs are made with chemicals. So you're going to want to eventually start decreasing that. And you can do that by I don't know if you ever use like any different kinds of milks, like almond milk or anything in those. Those can help do that. There's some herbal coffees actually on the market that have a very similar taste. And there's no caffeine in them, and they're not even made from the caffeine beans. So they're made from one of the substances is called chicory, and they make it from a combination of herbs and other beans. And one of those is called ticino. And if you really like that roasted, they've roasted these vegetables and nuts and herbs to kind of give that very similar taste. And so there's a lot of different alternatives and substitutes. We had a great caffeine detox challenge in our Facebook group this past week. And so people were finding all the different ways they could do that. And we still have the videos up if anyone's interested in coming over and looking at some of those, so they can really get an idea of what it takes to decrease and get off of caffeine.
Tell us a little bit more about that challenge.
Yeah. So we had a 3-day challenge. And the first day we really did a big overview, because I did have, a lot of pushback. People were like, why? So I had to do an overview to explain, tachycardia, which is rapid heart rate. This is putting you at risk for arrhythmias. We mentioned earlier, people who take care of their health as they get older, they don't have so many health issues. But if I spent, which I did spend a good amount of years drinking coffee, if I spent so many years in that coffee trail, just, and all the caffeine, I may have major consequences. So we looked at the entire system from head to toe. It affects your memory, your ability to concentrate sometimes. The right dose can actually assist concentration. And I mentioned that in the group, but at what cost? If your heart feels like it's about to jump off, if you have nervousness issues where you can't get your rest at night, it actually can aggravate for those people who have various mood disorders, such as if they have anxiety, depression. It can aggravate those. So we went into all of the things as to why, kind of setting the stage for that. Day 2, we actually went into protocols. We went into the coffee protocol, a tea protocol, and a cola protocol for slowly decreasing and weaning. Some of the people in the group wanted to just go cold turkey. And I didn't advise that, depending on how much you drink. If you're drinking multiple beverages throughout the day, I would recommend that you do a wean. But if you're just a person who just goes out for coffee every Sunday, once a week, you could go cold turkey. So we were telling people, a lot of the people were doing more than just once a week. So doing a wean was best, so you don't have any funny withdrawal symptoms. And day 3, we talked about support. While you're detoxing, what are some of the liver herbs like milk thistle that can support? Looking at, kidney herbs that can support you during the detox, like nettle. So we looked at some of the supportive herbs, some of the replacement drinks like the ticino. I personally like roasted dandelion. You might want to try that. That may be it has that same kind of roasted taste, but it doesn't give you that caffeine kick. And most people will, you have to kind of slowly wean off of that. But doing other juice drinks, we looked at doing different juicing ideas, doing smoothies, other things that can give us that vibrant energy without, taking our health out. So we did all of that.
That's awesome. I think I definitely could benefit from, I don't know if I could go without caffeine. I think I'm so addicted to it. I don't know if I could go without it long term, but I could probably at least try for 3 days and see, maybe over the weekend, not during the week.
Definitely. And doing a decrease and knowing that it's okay that, Valentine's is coming up. You might want to have chocolate, and that's okay. It's just that you're not going to, eat chocolate every day, a big bar every day for the next year. So you're going to treat yourself on occasion, and that's fine. So yeah, you don't have to just go no caffeine ever again. So, and that was another thing we reiterated to people. Getting a decrease where you're not having the symptoms is the most important.
That's good. So can you leave us with maybe 1 or 2 tips that our audience, specifically seniors, could utilize to help them really live a more independent life and just kind of maximize, their wellness and just making sure they're resting and all that good jazz?
Yeah, so to maximize, I like to encourage seniors. I know I've encouraged the seniors in my family watching their intake of various media. I've had some family members who will, they'll watch CNN 24/7 all day, and it keeps them in like a heightened state of stress and anxiety. And so it's good we do need to be aware of the news. We just can't put our head in the sand, but definitely get your daily bullet points of whatever news you're going to get, and then go on and live your life. I said earlier, what gets scheduled gets done. So I encourage seniors, even just a simple notebook. I know, our generation, we probably have 1,000 apps to help us plan our day, but let them have a simple notebook where they're planning their day and taking charge and writing it into action. So that's really important. I think having a spiritual life is really important too, knowing that there is a higher power somewhere that you can lay your rest and worry onto. And that can definitely help them keep independent. Maybe one final thing, I know a lot of seniors enjoy reading. So reading some really good books that are inspirational, whether it's a religious text or just a really great author that you want to read or have already read, something that's inspirational, or an audiobook, just to kind of keep you inspired and uplifted through the day.
I love that. Well, Dr. Scott, thank you again so much for stopping by and chatting with me. I have a feeling I'm going to be incorporating a lot of these tips. I'm going to try to wean down, but I don't know if I can do it. But it's definitely worth trying for my health.
Definitely, yes. I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me, Attorney Soraya. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Sure thing. Lastly, how can people get a hold of you if they want to know more about the challenge, if they want to know more about Sleep RX, Sleep Well RX, and your community on Facebook?
Definitely. They can follow me. Easiest place is probably to go to my website, isleepwellrx.com. So that's isleepwellrx.com. And from there, I have all the links to all of the information they'll need. So that'd be the easiest way.
Okay, awesome. We'll check you out. Thank you so much, Dr. Scott. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.